2026 Planning Commission meeting to order. And we'll start off with roll call.
Danny Ferraro, Eagles Nest Road.
Bethany Cody, Lake Enchantment.
Jim Johnson, White Oak Drive.
Linda Winslow, Norwood Street.
Eric Bauer, staff planner.
And Leanne Kishmarsky called me a little while ago, and her husband has to stay at the hospital a little bit longer after surgery than anticipated, so she doesn't think she'll make it.
Okay.
Nothing major, just some surgery that they got backed up in the OR, I guess, so. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from previous meeting on May 27th, 2026.
Move to approve the minutes of the first meeting of May 27, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment. Anyone wishing to speak can come forward at this time. Nothing at this time, ma'am? Okay.
I will note that everybody here knows that we had to reschedule that public hearing that was originally scheduled for tonight to the June 24th meeting due to a notification error. That gentleman was here for that, so I let him know that it's not happening tonight, so that's when he left. But just putting it out there.
That was a storage unit?
Correct, yep.
Was it not put in the mining journal or
It
too late, or?
Wasn't published. Usually happens a couple times a year. Sometimes it's on us for not getting it out. Sometimes it's on the mining journal. I mean, we won't get into it here on who it's on this time, but yeah, it just wasn't published in time. So it's out now. Letters have been resent, and we're good to go for the 24th.
I thought I saw that in the paper. Was it, you sure it wasn't in the paper, huh?
As far as we know, it was not.
I saw it on paper.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay. Well, was it for the 24th?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't for tonight, though.
Not to my recollection.
Okay.
Oh,
That's-
maybe it was wrong date?
Right, that's the
Oh,
issue.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, like I said, Jason and I, as soon as we realized it wasn't published, we got on top of it and published it, so you probably saw it.
Okay.
And I was gonna save this for the additional comments, but I was gonna be asked to be excused on the 24th, so I hope we have enough
Okay.
people.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know Leanne, is she planning a trip and then possibly a grandchild?
Well,
Something.
we just need 3, right?
3 is a quorum.
I'll be
Okay.
here.
I'll check at home on my super duper calendar. Oh, how's that?
Oh. Well, I hope it works out.
Okay.
If not, we'll just reschedule.
All right, well, I guess we'll go to 6A, new business, Marquette Township zoning ordinance update discussion, overview of process, proposed amendments to Article 2 for consensus consideration.
Yep, so we've been talking about this for a while. No, by the way, no presentation tonight. I didn't think it warranted one tonight. What we've been talking about, kind of a wide-scale zoning ordinance update for a while. And Jason and I have kind of been talking about the best way to tackle that now that the master plan update is formalized. As we see it, and as it kind of says in the staff report, rather than going, well, we're gonna go through article by article, some articles will need more attention than others. For example, the definition section tonight, we're adding a lot, taking out some. Article 1, however, that just kind of establishes the laws that the zoning ordinance is based on or kind of ties back to, so obviously no big updates there, and so it kind of goes through. Some articles will need more than others. So as we go through it article by article, rather than formal motions every meeting for an article and then getting attorney review for individual articles and public hearings for individual articles, we're proposing getting just a simple consensus as we go through article by article, and then at the end, once we feel it's complete, we'll get one formal motion, one attorney review, and then one public hearing. One or more public hearings depending on how they go. So So tonight in your packet is simply Article 2, as well as after the draft Article 2 is a kind of simplified list of the definitions that were added to that Article 2, just for ease of reading. And I do note in the staff report here, as we go through article by article, for example, when we get to wetlands or the backyard animal keeping sections, those definitions are listed in this Article 2, but as we get to those later articles in the ordinance and address those topics, the definitions in turn might be changed when we get to Article 16, detailed use regulations. So again, the simple consensus when we present an article is kind of what we're looking for. Obviously, we want to hear comments and feedback, so we're not just rubber stamping stuff. So tonight, again, is Article 2 definitions. It includes addition of numerous entries, removal of definitions that are obsolete, and more minor grammar, spelling, and formatting changes. All additions are in red text. Any deletions are noted with strike-through text. And there are a small number of highlighted definitions, and these are those areas that will be further reviewed when later articles in the ordinance are addressed. So here it is for you tonight. I will note, so on the kind of table of contents of Article 2, I removed some categories. I went to those articles where those are mentioned and folded them back in to Article 2. So those will be removed from there. The two that remain, the sexually explicit entertainment and the signs sections, those are, in those sections in the ordinance, those lists of definitions are pretty lengthy, and they're detailed and very specific to those specific sections of signs and the sexually explicit entertainment. So I found it best just to leave those where they were rather than try to fold them into the definition section and have to add details and context to make them make sense as standalone definitions, if that makes sense. Whereas where they live currently in the ordinance, there's the context surrounding those definitions, especially regards to signs, when we're talking about sign height and electronic message centers and how those messages on the electronic message centers transition to others and into the fine details where we really don't need to be getting into those in the kind of the standard definition section. There are a few that were removed. Let's see, there were a couple that I struck out because they are simply not referenced anywhere else in the ordinance. So we had a definition for something, and then when it's not mentioned at all in the rest of the ordinance, that kind of could set up the township for issues, being that, and I'm going to find a specific example here. When it's listed in the definitions and then nowhere else in the ordinance, somebody who says, well, I want to establish that use because it's listed in the definitions, and then we don't have anything in the ordinance to regulate it or back it up or tell us how to establish that use. So other than that, I will note that Denny did send me a email stating that I missed, and I certainly did, the wetland delineation report definition, so that will be added for future consideration. And then other than that, I think that's all I've got, so I'd be open to questions and or discussion or anything else.
Do you want to do it page by page, or do you want us to just shout out what we found, or?
Well, if you got
How do you
any,
want it to do it?
If you got any comments right now, I'd be happy to hear them. Otherwise,
Okay.
I mean, I'd encourage you to, and we can certainly talk about it page by page right now, that's fine. Otherwise, take it home, some homework, read it over, send me any comments, me or Jason any comments, or bring them to the next meeting.
Oh, I already did that. I read it
Okay.
page by page. So did Jim.
So yeah, if you've got
So
kind
did
of,
everyone, right?
if you've got a laundry list of things, please.
Well, it's not a long laundry
Okay.
list, but it's a couple things.
Sure.
So, I'll just say the page number.
Sure.
And so page 4, it talks about adult foster care facilities. I looked up the definition for homes for the aged, and I think we can find a better term than homes for the aged. Okay, I think the term I found was residential housing facility for elderly individuals.
Are you talking about page 4?
I'm talking about page 4. I'm talking about the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth sentence, fifth line from the top. It says homes for the aged. What does that mean? Okay, so I think elderly is the term that we hear more often now. I have no idea what home for the aged
What
means.
about senior citizens?
Well, I'm better with anything. I think, again, it's hard to say how that's defined, but I know there's a term out there that's probably well used.
We can clean that up.
So clean that up, and then I went all the way to, it was a lot to read, but it's very thorough, okay? I went all the way to page 18, where again, we're talking about, under independent senior housing, so we call it senior housing, and then we call it occupancy by older adults. Who are older adults? So you might want to say senior adults, because you already called them senior housing. I don't know. And then that home for the aged thing. It is residential housing facility for elderly individuals, but you can choose some better verbiage if you would like. I can give you my paper, if that's helpful. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing. And then on page 20, it says in red, live work unit. Live work unit, so that's like home business, right?
No.
It's different than home business. So somewhere,
I would say some home businesses could be a live-work unit, but not all live-work units are home businesses.
okay, so I just had a little bit of like, what does this mean kind of thing. So
That-
did we define home business someplace else?
Home occupation, we do.
Okay.
And that's one that I've highlighted because that's one that Jason and I have talked about.
Okay.
Possibly switching up the requirements for that.
Okay, and then, then on page 32, I had a hard time reading the shared parking, where it says parking spaces or facilities used jointly by 2 or more uses. Is it used jointly for 2 or more uses?
No.
It's by 2 or more uses.
Yep, so that would, an example of that would be, like
It's
the strip mall at Bigby Coffee and First National
okay.
Bank and, or not bank,
It
First
just-
National Trust and Management.
Seems to me it doesn't read very well, but if if your computer didn't tell you to change it, that's probably fine. Page 36, trailheads, it says, it lists all the things, which may include all these things, or other accessory improvements. Or other accessory improvements? Is that really what we want, accessory improvements?
That just refers to,
Or
'cause
other,
the primary use would be the trailhead, so the accessory improvements would include parking signage, maps, restrooms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
okay. Could it just say, or other improvements? You guys decide, right? I couldn't quite figure out what accessory, like accessories, like, it was going clothing accessories kind of thing.
Well, no, in the context of the zoning ordinance, like we talk about
Yeah.
accessory structures, those are secondary to the primary structure, so these would be secondary improvements to the
Yeah.
primary use of the trailhead.
So it might be a little confusing for some folks, but maybe not, maybe just me. And then, that's pretty much all I saw. I did see marriage was listed as, in the daycare thing. Children are related by marriage, lots of, we have less people married with children than we had 20 years ago. So marriage is an interesting word to, what does that mean now in today's world? So
And I will note too.
it's just my take.
Yep, sorry for interrupting. I will note on the daycare center definition, childcare and daycare center definitions, as well as the adult care definitions, those lived in their individual articles, Article 16 or
So,
Article
yeah,
20
just
or
moved
wherever they were. So I pulled them out of there and stuck them in here.
So it's probably
all that is.
a good plan,
So
but,
those aren't new definitions to the ordinance, those are simply relocated, and that's why
Yeah.
they're in red text, because they were added to Article
yeah,
2.
they just might need, current verbiage updates.
And,
you know,
yeah,
but
I
you
would
guys
agree.
decide.
But I will note too that we base those on state definitions, so.
Yeah, well, and, maybe they all need updates, how's that? You won't disagree, right? Yeah, they just did some interesting, they just did something with first aid that is like mind-boggling to me, so, at the state level. Okay, that's all I have. Now it's Jim's turn. Are we going down our line? Do you have more?
Yeah, how are we gonna do it?
Yeah, that's
Bethany?
fine. I'm good, so you can.
Okay. Benny?
I guess I misunderstood the procedure here. I thought that, and I was a little confused about some of the additions and what was in pages 1 through 40. What I took away from this was that the last wait a minute, let's see here. The last 6 pages of this document, of this packet, numbers 1 through 6. And number 1 is on the back side of 40, right? So it was my understanding that what you were asking for tonight was our approval of those additions. And I understood, as you prefaced your presentation here, that if something wasn't included in these proposed additions, that we could, add them later. I didn't, I missed, it was my fault, I missed the concept that we were to go through pages 1 through 40 to look at the changes and give approval for those, so I apologize. But
No, I mean, we didn't ask commissioners to do that. I mean,
Okay.
it was just more information sharing tonight. I mean, if there is a consensus to, again, it's just a consensus, so it's not a formal approval, so even if we have consensus tonight, we are almost 100% certain gonna come back to this to
Okay.
add and change and edit as we move through the ordinance.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm trying to do is maybe bifurcate this process or simplify it and ask if we can, to make things easier for you and Jason, if we can just look at pages 1 through 6, which are the last 6 pages of this document, and then say, hey, yeah, these look like good additions. We might have other additions later, and the other stuff, pages 1 through 40, we can address, we can send you an email and this and that.
Yep.
Or we can send you an email. Okay.
That sounds good to me. I mean, and I will note, to clarify, 1 through 6 are the entirely new definitions that have been added.
Okay, okay.
So, and like I noted, some of the red text in 1 through 40 is simply stuff that I pulled from elsewhere in the ordinance just to kind of
Right.
simplify and make it easier to navigate.
Right, but I got the impression that you gave more thought to and more, you were asking for more approval from our group for pages 1 through 6, because these seemed like these were thought through, and, I mean, not that you didn't think through 1 through 40, but these seem like new things that you were gonna ask us to approve.
Right, and that's really the meat of it, so
Okay.
to speak, is what the new definitions, page 1 through 6.
So when you say by consensus, is that, do we take a vote and say it's a vote by consensus to approve such and such? Would that be the appropriate
Yep,
procedure?
yep.
Okay.
And I mean, again, it won't be
right.
by definition, a formal motion or a formal approval, but a consensus
Yeah.
approval that kind of enables us to keep moving forward through
Sure,
this update
sure.
is what we're looking for.
So I make a motion to approve by consensus the proposed Article 2 definition additions dash 060426 as it appears on pages 1 through 6, which are the last 6 pages of this document. And that's completely aside from what's on pages 1 through 4. Does that make sense? Anybody?
Kinda,
I mean, it looks like here, they put a lot of work into this.
yeah.
And so when we look through all this, pages 1 through 40, and there's different things that we can comment on, and Linda, I've written down your comments here, and, but I guess what I missed was that we were supposed to review all those. I thought we were just gonna focus on the black and white text additions on pages 1 through 6. And then that would be an easy way to move forward, and we could then still address the other concerns on pages 1 through 40. So anyway, that's my motion. The motion is to approve by consensus the proposed additions that staff has prepared on pages 1 through 6.
I don't think there's any rush on this. We can take our time and,
Yeah.
there's no deadline or anything.
And I would say, Denny, that maybe we did get kind of ahead of our skis here on putting 1 through 40, the literal article in the packet, but really what we're focused on in these definitions is the page 1 through 6, the new ones we've added or proposing to add.
So that's kind of what you would like us
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
give you direction on tonight.
Yes.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah.
So that's my motion. I don't know if you'll get a second, but that's it.
So then you're just adding this to the discussion, in essence.
Yeah, like.
For
so
these-
At some point in time, so tonight was to talk about Article 2 definitions. And some of that discussion, or some of the packet involved Article 2 amendments and changes and so forth on pages 1 through 40. But some of it, which is more concrete and in final form, if you want to say that, or near final form, was what's on pages 1 through 6. So what I'm just saying is, as we go along and do this rolling approval process, why don't we just take a chunk at a time, get it off Jason and Eric's plate, and then we can move on to the more interesting, not more interesting, but the ones with the red lines and so on and so forth. And we can do that, we can do it tonight, or we can do it some other time anyway, but I just wanted to get this chunk out of the way and into their approval bit, I guess.
So your motion is to approve all these definitions on here,
As
as they're written,
the additional,
the additions.
the addition,
Right.
yeah.
Okay,
That's my motion.
Okay.
To put it into the approval by consensus
okay,
category, so that then Jason and Eric can say, oh, well, the planning commission has said that these additions are, basically okay by consensus.
okay.
And then the other stuff that's on pages 1 through 40 in terms of, just like, for example, with whether it has to be changed, aged, or whatever those definitions need to be cleaned up, we can address those, separately, either tonight or at further meetings or whatever. I just want to get something off the, something moving here, that's all.
Did you have an addition that you wanted to put in those pages 1 through 6?
Well, I do, but I can address that. I can tell you what I would like to put in there, yeah. But I mean, I thought it'd be simpler just to take what looks like this, that Jason and Eric have thought like, okay, these are just additions. Yeah, there's a couple things involving wetlands that I think I would like to add. but, or a definition. And then there's a cleanup of the definition of wetland in pages 1 through 40.
With and wetlands, I know is one of those highlighted areas where I know that we're gonna talk about it extensively later, so I left it alone. I didn't really touch it with
Yeah.
your latest definitions that you've sent, so these might not be completely up to date, the highlighted sections.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yep.
There's things that I would change, but rather than complicate things, I just wanted to, if you think, if you're asking us, hey, you know, these black and white amendments here, or, you know, additions are what Jason and I have agreed upon, what do you guys think? I'm thinking, I've looked at them, I studied them, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, let's add these.
Good deal.
Yeah, that's the basis of my motion.
Okay, so
Not to exclude any other discussion of, you know,
we're agreeing to the addition of these amendments, but not to the definitions of these amendments, which we could change coming up.
If,
as Eric said, if we get into like the implementation of things, like, for example, whatever, would you say, Article 18, Article 20, or whatever?
well, 16 is detailed use regulations,
Yeah.
so a lot of the wetlands and home occupation and tiny homes, that all falls under Article 16.
Yeah,
So-
as we proceed with that, we might have to go back and tweak a definition or two. But I was just trying to say, okay, if these are the additions that they want, and they seem like they're pretty discreet and definite, let's just give our approval to Jason and Eric to put those in the hopper, and then we can talk about the other stuff, the other definitions and the tweaking we have to do on that.
So these definitions are in the 1 through 40 pages.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
so,
they are.
so they're already in there.
They're in there, but then they're laid out clearly on pages 1 through 6.
It's the same word. It's the same verbiage, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. So what's on page 1 through 6 is integrated in, put into, so they're there.
I understand, but if we try to say, okay, let's approve the additions that are in pages 1 through 40, well, then we have to look through 1 through 40 to find all the additional definitions and all the redlined, and it's just.
Does it seem too much?
Logically,
Oh.
just to say,
Yeah, so I did not have any changes other than the ones that I mentioned, and they're not really changes, they're just things that I noted. So I don't have any questions about the 1 through 6 ones.
okay,
So they're there, so I don't know, Jim. I don't know, I mean, in my mind, they're already in there, so
so you think they're okay?
I do, I didn't have any questions. I like highlighted the questions I had
So
and
theoretically,
everything.
you might be a second to my motion.
Well, it could be, except it's a confusing motion to me. So really what you're saying, in my mind, is that all the things in page 1 through 40, the additional ones that were put in there, you have no questions about, or no changes. So we really want them to just move forward. Is that what you're saying?
Just to say, if you guys approve 1 through 6 tonight, we're, like I said, almost 100% certainly gonna come back to 1
Yeah.
through 40 and 1 through 6, because as we move through here and put in language about data centers, we
Right.
might wanna switch the data center definition around a little bit. So again, I didn't mean to confuse everybody here, but all that we were looking for is basically a simple, yeah, they look good. And we'll kind of move forward on that basis, because everything in the zoning ordinance comes back to definitions, is kind of what it comes down to. Because when you got something in the ordinance that says, this is how a tiny home is allowed, and we gotta go back to the definition to see that a tiny home is 450 square feet or under, and that's what people, that's how they work through the ordinance, so.
Does it cross-reference? So if I went into this whole document, can I do a word search and it'll bring me to where all the,
Yes.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
currently, like, our PDF version of our ordinance, you can Control F and type in any word, and it's gonna
it'll
show
take you those, that
every
word?
every instance of that word in the ordinance. I have been looking at Alpena Charter Township's zoning ordinance. I'd encourage you to check it out on their website. But they've got a very easily read, navigable zoning ordinance online where you pull up the table of contents, everything's a clickable link. So if you're scrolling through and you need to find stuff about urban residential, you can go to article, whatever it is in our ordinance, 8 or 9, and click on Article 9 and go to urban residential, and you go to that section, and in urban residential, it says you can have single-family homes, tiny homes, home occupations, and all those are clickable links, and so you can click on the home occupation, and it takes you to Article 20, and it tells you home occupations are allowed in accessory structures, and then you don't know what accessory structures are, you click on accessory structures, and it brings you to that article. So, I don't know, Jason and I have talked about that a little bit, about maybe either doing it ourselves or finding somebody to help us out getting it in a format like that online where it would be much easier to, one, for staff and planning commissioners to read and use, but then just the general public too.
Yeah. Maybe the company that we have that does our web page
Yeah.
has that available. That would be time intense
Yeah.
for
Yes, it
a
would.
staff person. That wouldn't even make sense, probably. Alpena might be who we want to check with, who they're using for their technology. If you
So,
thought it was
like I
easy.
said, it was, on Monday, Tuesday this week, I didn't read through word by word of the ordinance, but I went through page by page and was circling sections that I know that we're going to address. And then kind of doing that, I find Alpena Charter Township zoning ordinance in the format that they have it in, and I brought it basically immediately to Jason and said we should explore doing this. So that's about the extent of our conversation on it. So I'm sure there'll be more on that as we move forward.
So in my mind, we're ready to tell you to continue moving forward, but we'll want to relook at this. Is that what
Absolutely.
you're saying, Danny? Continue to move forward and we'll relook at all the things when you're ready.
Yeah, I mean, that's the given of this whole process, is that until we vote on a final, complete text to send to Roger Zappa for review, and then
Public hearing.
to,
Wow, yeah.
to the township for approval, we're gonna be going back and forth on this. My intent, though, was to say that since Jason and Eric have taken the time to isolate the additional, the additions, that are strictly additions to the ordinance, not changes in terms of text of existing ordinance, but additions, since they've taken that time to do that and put them in easily to read black and white without any strike-throughs on pages 1 through 6. My thought was, why don't we just say, my motion was just to give them approval by consensus of those additions, and then let's talk about the other stuff. We can talk about it tonight, we can talk about it the next meeting, whatever.
Okay.
That's the
Okay,
basic.
no, it makes, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I guess what it boils down to, in my mind, is if we vote on this tonight and say, okay, what part of the zoning ordinance is going to be on the agenda for next week? This still, or move on to the next section? Are we gonna be discussing this further then, or, you know, once we approve these, we just go through the whole thing and then make a motion on the whole thing? Is that,
Well, like I said, with definitions, everything in the ordinance kind of goes back to
Right.
them. So I'm sure as we go through article by article, we're going to be talking, say, when we get to 16, it's going to be a discussion about 16 and in turn, Article 2, definitions. But like I said, also, some of these sections, we're not going to be really touching all that much. Like Articles, I think, 4 through 10 are just kind of general information about each zoning district. And it doesn't really get into detail. It's like, it talks about the uses permitted in this district are listed in Article 15. That's not gonna change. And it says special use permits in this district, regulations on that are listed in Article 14, the special use permit section. So there's a number of sections that are not gonna be touched extensively. We'll review them to make sure they're up to date and accurate and stuff like that. But for example, like Articles 4 through, or call it 3 through 10, because 3 is zoning districts and map. We're not really talking about adding any zoning districts or changing any. It's certainly up for discussion if we want to, but I don't think that's really I don't know, our intention with this update. So for example, Articles 3 through 10, we're probably not gonna touch that much. Article 13, planned unit development, Jason said that there were some things in there, we didn't get into too much detail, but he said there were some things in there that he wanted to address. So we'll probably touch planned unit developments a little bit. Access management regulations, Article 14, that has to do with within 1,000 feet of US 41, mostly for businesses and making sure that they've got correct tapers on their driveways and access to their businesses is safe and orderly for traffic. Probably not gonna touch that one too much. Principal uses, Article 15, there will be some changes there. So as we go through article by article, it's really gonna depend on, I guess, and to answer your question, Jim, I guess the next meeting would probably, maybe we'll group Articles 4 through 10 together, since those are about each zoning district. We'll group them all together, bring them to you and say, are there any changes that you see that we need here?
But that wouldn't preclude us from revisiting any strike-throughs.
Absolutely not,
Or
no.
changes to Article 2 definitions. And that wasn't, Jim, I wasn't intending by my motion to limit our review, to continued review of definitions at all.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's,
No.
we're still going to be able to
I mean,
change or discuss it
No,
further.
because I have some that they left out that I would like to put
Right.
in.
Okay.
But I'd just say, let's talk about that after we, do what's on pages 1 through 6. As a provisional approval.
Okay.
Consensus approval.
All right, well, let's see if there's a second then, and we can kind of move forward one way or the other.
I'll second it.
All right, any more discussion?
Jim, I think a point of order might be okay here. A motion on a consensus I don't think is appropriate. And I think what Eric's trying to do, the board has done, where this is treated more like a work session.
Okay.
And while I understand you want to nip away at it and have stuff locked down so you don't have to worry about it, I envision that changing the definitions themselves could change in the whole process. So my concern would be that a motion, when you say you're going to motion something, that's final. Not that it can't be changed, but consensus is easier. And you would just all say, Linda, we've done that. Do you all kind of agree that this is good and we're gonna go to the next step? And you just say, yeah. So there's nothing,
Okay.
because a motion is
You don't
like
need a
law.
motion.
So
Said
you could
something in
have
your
problems
motion.
if you're trying to keep your motion straight, if you keep going.
I
And
guess,
then you forget what got changed. I think
Right.
it'd be hard to do that.
I guess I could get more wordy and say, move to.
But you wouldn't make a motion is what I'm saying.
Right. I guess so. If I was gonna make a motion, I could say make a motion to approve conditionally or provisionally what's on pages 1 through 6, with the caveat that these are subject to change as we go through. I mean, I gave word to it, but a
Yeah.
consensus is fine.
And I think Eric's trying to make it
I'll
easier.
withdraw my motion
Yeah.
and just say, I make a request. that,
We can discuss this further, but there's a consensus to move forward with what you have
Yeah,
in here and discuss it further.
Yeah, the pages 1 through 6 look good, and if everybody's in consensus with that, that'll take something off their, off the plate, then we can talk about what other things in the definitions of Article 2 that we might want to change or whatever, that's all I was saying.
Yeah, and again, maybe to clarify, our intention with the article by article, I mean, we don't want to, doing it the other way of Jason and I going through the whole ordinance, making our changes and updates, and then presenting it to you like this, all 280 pages, plus or minus whatever we add or take out, that's gonna be
Well,
too cumbersome to do, so doing it article by article and with a formal motion at the end to have one review, one public hearing, all that, it's just more straightforward.
if we, by analogy, if we think about how our steering committee approached the master plan, we all sat in the other room over there, and
Yep.
we went through section by section, and then people made suggestions, and then, oh yeah, that looks good, and then it moved forward, but that wasn't the final thing, it was always subject to more approval, but at least it got something off
Got the ball rolling.
got the ball rolling, that's all I wanted to do.
Well, maybe it would be a better idea to just wait till the end for the definitions to see if there's anything we have to change after we do all this discussion on all this other stuff.
We can always come back and change them. With or without approval tonight, or consensus approval tonight, we can always come back and change them.
Okay, it just seems like we might be wasting our time going through this right now if there's gonna be a lot of changes after we go through the zoning ordinance, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we just wanted to get them in front of you.
Right.
Because that's how we're gonna do
Right.
it, piece by piece, because we don't wanna put all 280 pages in front of you at one meeting and then say, here you go, what are your comments?
Okay.
So, doing it this way, again, I think is just more digestible.
All right. So we have a consensus then to move forward with this. Everybody's in agreement on that?
With, well, just so it's no misunderstanding, we have consensus to move forward. And I am consenting to move forward with what's on pages 1 through 6. I have some.
Not the other ones through 40.
I have some issues with some things that are
Right.
in 1 through 40. Yeah.
I do too.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's my.
And Linda does too, I'm
Okay,
assuming.
good. Okay.
And probably Bethany.
I wanna look at them a little bit
Yeah.
better.
So I have a question. So can you have a work session prior to having a board meeting? Because this really is work session stuff. This is really not board meeting stuff. Can you do that? Can you schedule a work session at 6 and the meetings start at 6:30? And then we can do the whole discussion, because I feel like that's not really our agenda. I just feel like that, but,
Well, we do stuff by consensus and discussion all the time. Here, we don't have to have a separate work session. I mean, why have a,
well,
why
I don't,
complicate things? We're here, let's talk about it, let's hash it out, and, I mean, why have separate meetings?
well, I'm gonna look into that, why we would do that. We do some kind of policy governance, and you're supposed to kind of do things a little bit different, but,
We're only a recommending body anyway. We don't enact law. That's,
yeah, we do.
well, we make it to you, and then you have to pass it.
No.
Well, some of them.
Well, anyways, I just don't want us to get all carried away, you know, if you're gonna have a discussion about something, it seems like an open discussion is good, but I don't know. Maybe it doesn't even matter, but I'm sorry, Eric, I think we got way,
Yeah,
But
then-
let's just
Yeah.
look into having a work session, it might
I
be
think-
easier for discussion.
well, it doesn't mean that it's not the same time and all the same things, but there's two separate ways to kind of move it ahead, but maybe not. We'll ask the people that know the whole governance thing, how
Or-
it's supposed to work.
You could do a subcommittee and have a meeting and then, like we did for the master plan.
That just makes more work for everyone, though.
Yeah, but if we want a good sound ordinance update, that might warrant a subcommittee that draws in more people beyond staff and planning commissioners.
Yeah, so kind of things
I
to
don't-
think
I don't-
about.
I don't think that's appropriate at all. Our job is to talk about what should be in the zoning ordinance. I don't want to bring in people that aren't planning commissioners to talk about this.
Other township residents, developers,
No, That's what the public hearing is for.
Well, I guess I was just referring to a subcommittee of our commissioners.
Yeah, right, okay, that would be fine, but
Yeah.
I don't want to bring in the public to talk about amending the ordinances. That's what, I mean,
It was just an off the cuff idea. I'm not proposing.
Yeah, there's only 5 of us, so really it's a pretty small committee and we seem to be able to,
Yeah. you
Spend
just
time
got
discussing.
3 people, so we wouldn't have a quorum, or, no, we would have a quorum.
no, so.
I guess we'd only be able to have
Okay.
2. All right.
Anyways, the consensus thing is good, right?
Fine with
Consensus
me.
thing is good.
Okay, so you can tell Jason to keep working at it.
Okay.
all right, so now that we got that out of the way, let me tell you what I think you made a mistake on what's in pages 1 through 40. So we're gonna talk about that, right?
Sure.
We're talking about Article 2?
Yeah.
All right, my, so let me find the page. Okay, so on page 38, the definition of a wetland. So what you have here is in yellow and red, and the red parts are things that I suggested a long time ago, and everybody here voted to send them to Roger Zappa. And this was like several meetings ago, back in 2025. However, after Roger considered these, he said, no, you don't have to make those changes. He just said, let's just add a paragraph, which is what was then submitted to the planning commission as exhibit number 1, which was then sent back. So, in other words, there's no change to the definition of a wetland except to add a subparagraph D. And this is Roger's language. A wetland shall be defined under section 30301 paren 1 paren N of the Natural Resources Environmental Protection Act, Michigan Comprehensive Laws 324, 3030, paren 1, paren 9, N, or such applicable statute or law may be periodically amended. That's already been approved by Zappa, and that's what we actually then approved as a planning commission. So what you have here is an outdated amendment
That,
that didn't pass the smell test of Roger. So why, so, I mean, here, this is, I passed these out last time to everybody. This is
There's-
exhibit number 1.
on page 39, there is a subsection B of that definition.
I understand that. All I'm trying to say is that Roger has already said, no, we don't want to put in there stuff in red.
Okay, and like I said, the highlighted ones are ones that we knew, this is, for lack of a better term, simply a placeholder at this point.
I understand,
Yeah.
I understand, but people are saying, are now telling you, like Linda was telling you what things she wants changed, and I'm just saying, why send this? This was already rejected by Zappa, so why bother doing it? Instead, you just leave what's in the definition of wetland that we have already in the ordinance, and just add paragraph D, which is on page, which is on page 39. Yeah, I mean, here it is, I'll give it to you, right here. This is what we all agreed upon after Rogers sent us that 6-page letter. We all agreed that we just do that simple addition of his language, subparagraph D, And then we did this like 3 or 4, this was back in 2025. So I'm just saying, let's not complicate things by sending him things that he's already said, no, just,
We can get it changed. We'll get it changed.
yeah, so that's one thing. And then I know that I sent you a definition of a wetland delineation report.
Yep.
And just for, and I didn't send it to other planning commissioners because I didn't want to violate the Open Meetings Act. I just sent it to you and Jason.
And that was one we simply just overlooked and missed, so definitely
Yeah.
needs to be added.
And, but I would like to read it into the record to be added as a Article 2 definition. And it would read as follows, and it would be in bold, just like we have every definition, and the in bold would read, Wetland Delineation Report. A technical document that identifies, flags, and maps the exact boundaries of wetlands on a property and which is prepared by a qualified environmental consultant experienced with the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, (EGLE), guidance manuals, and wetland delineation procedures, and as are set forth in Part 303 of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, (NERIPA), close quote. So that would be my addition. I will, now that I've mentioned it in an open meeting to my fellow commissioners, I don't think it would be a breach of the Open Meetings Act if I just sent everybody here a copy of what I would like to include on that. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I mean, or you could send it to me and I could distribute it. That might
Yeah. Well,
completely
what I-
avoid the issue.
Yeah, okay, I'll just.
Or I've got it, because you've already
You've
sent
got it. I
it to
sent
me.
it
Right.
to you in my-
Okay.
That was my email to you of June 7th.
Okay.
2022. So that would be the addition that I would like to make. And then the correction of what I just gave you again as exhibit number 1, which is what Zappa's language was,
Yep.
and not my failed attempt to amend it.
So we're gonna delete D and then add the wetland delineation.
No, D stays, the other red text in that definition will be removed.
No, it's 2 different separate definitions. He forgot to,
Yes.
in other words,
Yep.
the additions that are on page 1 through 6 didn't include a definition of wetland. Instead, in pages 1 through 40, on pages 38, Eric had a definition that was based on my prior suggestions many meetings ago. On page 38, those things in red on page 38 were rejected, as well as the partial paragraph on page 39. Paragraph D, which is what Mr. Zappa approved, is okay. But
Okay,
that's the wetland. But then there was no definition of a wetland delineation report included. So that's what I was just getting at.
yeah.
And that's all.
Yeah, I thought that's what I said. Okay. As long as we're kind of going through this, anybody else have anything that they wanted to see wording changed or modified?
I just say, I think you guys did a great, I mean, it's a lot of work, what you're doing, so.
Yeah, it'll be another, I mean, we didn't obviously directly involved with the master plan, but having a consultant on board to help us with that. But we're planning on doing this kind of in-house, so it's gonna be a big undertaking, but now that we've got the zoning technician Kyle on board to kind of help out with property maintenance and it, I mean, we're looking forward to it. And
Yeah,
some of
nice
this,
job.
yeah,
Nice
some of the
job.
stuff we've been talking about for a long time, so.
Nice job on what you did here. I think it's nice.
One thing I know we were talking about with Jason before, and I don't know if it should be under definitions or just wait till we get to that section, but when there were going to be like, when you count the square footage of a house, the square footage was just, the definition of the square footage was just the perimeter of the house and not the second or third story or basement.
Yep,
And we were talking about changing that.
yep.
So should that be in definitions? I didn't see it anywhere in here. I don't even know
It would
what,
certainly be addressed in the specific section,
right.
but, like, for example, and this might be, like, tiny home, for example, I didn't touch the definition, but I highlighted it because we're talking about kind of eliminating that missing 451 to 999 square feet. And so if we're gonna just say there's no minimum square footage, then getting rid of the tiny home definition entirely and removing it entirely might be the way to go. But on the note of kind of the floor area, and I would have to take a look closer through each page here to find specific areas, but I don't think it would necessarily need to be addressed in the definitions.
Right. That's kind of what I figured too.
Yeah.
We'll just wait till we get to that.
Yep. And maybe when we get to it, maybe it does warrant a definition, and we'll add one then. So, I mean, just because, again, we're doing stuff tonight doesn't preclude us from doing it again later, so.
Okay. Any more? Okay, let's move on to 6B, Marquette Township Master Plan Update Completion, Michigan Grant Closeout Discussion. Eric?
Yep, so just pretty much quick update. At your dais tonight was the official board resolution formally adopting, or resolution of concurrence, not a formal adoption from the board, because that's the planning commission for the formal adoption. So just the resolution of concurrence from the board. Jason did formally close out the Michigan grant, so that's closed and done with, and then we haven't met with them yet, but we're gonna meet with Pride Printing at some point to discuss kind of a wide-scale printing of the plan. So that's really all the updates I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions on it, or any further discussion on it as well, but just a simple update.
Okay. Any questions about that or comments? Okay, number 7, no unfinished business. Number 8 is correspondence from the US 41 Quarter Advisory Group meeting minutes of May 12th, 2026.
Yep, and kind of like the last meeting where we had these minutes in the packet, there was no site plans reviewed at this meeting. The meetings are kind of administered by MDOT, so they always bring kind of their construction updates, so those are listed on the minutes. And then we had, this group met just yesterday for our monthly meeting, and there were no site plans then either. So, again, just kind of a quiet time of year. I would suspect at the next one, we'll probably have a site plan, just because it's kind of the development season. But, yeah, quiet on that front the past few months, so.
Okay. 9A, Township Board Report. Linda?
So the Township Board met on Wednesday, June 3rd, here in the Marquette Township building. Some items of interest, especially we should all note that there will most likely be a fee increase for our garbage pickup. The Marquette County landfill is increasing their tonnage fees on 7/1. Okay, so, and it was a significant increase, enough that we will probably have to pass that on to the people who are part of the garbage pickup.
What was that date, I'm sorry?
They're increasing their fees on 7/1.
Thank you.
Yep, and I think it's $13 a ton they're increasing $11 a ton. That's significant. Again, I'll say my piece that I say at every board meeting, please recycle. It decreases our tonnage, and please do not throw containers that contain liquids into the garbage, because that weighs a lot. So empty out your water bottles. We also had a presentation by Sarah Skarowski. I probably said that really wrong. She wanted to come and talk to us about Schwemwood Park having a story walk. So I stopped at the Negaunee Township office 2 days ago and talked to their supervisor, and they are having theirs put in right now, their story walk. So I thought it would be nice if we could, and he's going to email Lynn and myself and tell us when it's ready for visitors, and we're going to share that at our respective meetings, and I would encourage you to go walk the path. They, of course, would love us to do it, but there is always a funding that goes along with this. Negaunee Township was able to get a grant, but as we all know, grants are decreased at this point in government. So that doesn't mean we couldn't find one, though. We do have a community foundation, and maybe we'll look at that. We'll have to see. And we do have Native American tribes, and if we could focus on a storybook with Native American students, children in it, it might be an option for us to look at. So we'll kind of pass that on to staff, I guess. I'll pass it on to staff since I think it's a great idea. So yeah, we did also renew our Marquette Township, or our Michigan Township Association membership renewal. And so we get information about opportunities for education. And so sometimes, you know, it might be something you would be interested in listening to or watching. So I don't know where the list of what's available is, but I'll ask and see, because we can all sign on and listen. We also, as you already know, considered the Marquette Township Master Plan, and the resolution was passed. And the comments from the board members were that it was a lot of work and everyone did a great job. The Planning Commission, the staff worked really hard, and they were thankful for that. And our next meeting is June 17th for the Township Board. Please, if you have any issues, there's public comment at those meetings as well, and oftentimes an education component. So I invite you to attend if you are able. And that's it. Dan Everson did the traditional, the meeting is adjourned motion, and that was the end. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question on this, on the story walk.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that in other parks.
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Even in different states, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
it, yeah. And it's kind of a nice thing, you know, for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I thought there was a prior meeting of the township board. Sometimes I try to look at don't go to the meetings, but I look at the tapes. And I thought somebody from the Iron Ore Heritage Trail made a presentation regarding that same topic. And they said they were gonna try to, maybe they were referring to Negaunee, I don't know. Was there an Iron Ore Heritage Trail representative that came to a township board meeting?
He did.
And gave a presentation, he talked about the story walk thing, and said there was grant money for it. And I thought maybe the Iron Ore Heritage Trail has a fundraising capacity.
They may very well. I don't remember that they talked about that. I know the Iron Ore Heritage Museum in Negaunee, I think that's in Negaunee Township too, that they have some stories that are along the trail.
Well,
And I don't know who did that. I mean, I don't know who's done
I mean,
those.
the Iron Ore Heritage Trail is right there, it's on the park.
Yeah, yeah. So you can connect up to it, but so, yeah. And you know, there are opportunities for funding sometimes, but you have to be able to write the grant, and sometimes Sometimes that's time and sometimes that's,
Okay, so then I misunderstood. There's not a plan in effect.
not,
On Story Walk at Schwimmer Park.
not today.
Okay.
It was just a presentation and we'll just have to brainstorm and see, you know, where the cards fall. The other thing that I thought was interesting was these storybooks could be exchanged. So in other words, we could do our walk and have a story, and then we could trade with Nagani, who would give us their story. And so children are not going to walk the same walk every other week or every other year. So, you know, that concept of being able to, like, it's like interlibrary loan. Do you know where you can get a book from a different library brought to our library? It would be that same concept. We would get a loan from someone else's storybook pages. So, I mean,
I guess I was kind of having a pipe dream
okay, we like pipe dreams.
about Schwimwood Park and its proximity to the Heritage Trails homes, and then maybe through the Recreation Committee and maybe Iron Ore Heritage Trail, setting up a fundraising
Yeah.
campaign to connect the Heritage Trail homes to Schwimwood Park with a little playground in there, and then you could have the
Yeah.
story walk and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it'd be cool if the Native American author, if we found a Native American author who wrote a storybook that we could put in that, because that's all connected. But I don't know anyone. Well, I do know someone. Yeah, so that was exciting. I mean, I think that's exciting. That's what our master plan survey says. They want those kinds of activities outside for children and adults and, so we'll see. We'll see if we can find the money, I guess. You never know. It's about $7,000 or $8,000 is what Nagani told me.
Is that the township doing their own labor?
No, Nagani Township?
Yeah.
No, they got the grant from the state. Well, I'm not sure who they really got it from, so I don't want to say that, but it's all grant funded. I don't think they paid anything. I think that's what I was told.
Well, Jim, do you mean like Nagani Township staff putting in the kiosks and?
Yeah.
When I was there, no, someone else was putting them in. I was there the day they were putting them in. So it's very cool. No, it's not their staff.
I wonder why not.
Well,
Seemed like it would've- might
because
have been cheaper.
they wrote a grant.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of
okay.
it's part of how that grant stuff works.
So if they used the township staff here, it probably wouldn't be 7,000 or 8,000?
I don't know that. I would say it would not, but I don't know that.
Okay.
Because,
All right. Denny, did you have a rec committee report yet? Did you have a meeting
It's next week, next Tuesday.
next week? Okay.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, it'll be largely focused on the rec plan update, which kind of kick off the rec plan update. Which we need, it's due for an update, and that's needed to stay current with the DNR and be able to be eligible for DNR funding, so grant funding.
Planning and zoning report?
I really don't have much to update. We are meeting with a developer next week who will be doing a walkthrough of the mall. So that's kind of positive news. They're coming up with a structural engineer to do a walkthrough. I'm gonna keep the date and time out of the public record here. But we will be going along, Jason and I at least, maybe a couple other township staff will be going along on that walkthrough. So some positive movement there. Other than that, I really don't have anything else. Unless there's specific questions.
That's it? Okay. Any announcements from anyone? Any public comment? Nothing, Lynn? Any additional comments by commissioners?
I took your advice, Jim, and I drove by the Heritage Trails site a couple times, and it looks like there's a deep trough there. Is that getting ready for the utilities?
I think basements.
Basements.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they changed it and put basements in.
Wow, yeah, okay.
And probably utilities.
Yeah, we know anything about when the utilities are gonna be?
There's some paperwork snafu that's holding everything up.
Oh.
Legal paper, you understand that part,
Yeah,
right?
not the lawyers.
Yeah, they kind of stopped doing everything all of a sudden.
Bummer.
Yeah, I
They were
saw.
going great guns and then, what happened? They run out of money already?
Without getting into too much detail, the developer wanted zoning compliance certificates so they could start on the construction, but we don't want to issue those until the PUD agreement is formal and finalized. That is the gist of it. Jason's been dealing with that mostly, keeping me out of it. So, but like Lynn said, it's basically paperwork at this point, building it up. So.
That was never formalized before, the PUD?
Well, it might not be the PUD, I might be putting that incorrectly. It might not be the PUD agreement, more so the master deed to the property.
For brownfield stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
So the developer wants zoning compliance certificates for each structure that's going in, but we don't want to issue those until the master deed and the parcel numbers are all assigned. It's basically kind of a holdup.
So they can't sell anything right now then?
No.
Okay. So they have for sale signs there, but, and advertising it.
Yep. Advertise and they can garner interest, but I don't think it'd be in their best interest to sign anything on sales yet.
Anyone else?
No, just that I'd like to be excused.
6:24, yep. Got it.
You have to be excused right now?
Not for the next meeting,
No.
not right.
Because we're almost done.
I can wait until
Okay.
we're done with this one.
All right. Nothing, Lynn? No? Okay. Meeting adjourned then at 7:13.